Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. I am still very much in the ocean themed videos right now. If you saw my last video where I used the stunning seahorse inlays from Wendy over at Toompish Crafts, this is her logo. If you do not know, get to know, she's amazing. She sent me some gorgeous inlays. That inspired me to make some more inlays. Now, I have been making big hunky chunky silicone inlays on my channel for a couple of years now, but I've never used these molds. These are the maxi molds from Stamperia. Now I bought them here in the UK from I Love Mixed Media. Sadly, she's no longer open and doesn't have any of these molds left. So if any of you know where else we can get these in the UK, please help us out and put a comment in the comment section down below. These shells, guys, they are so beautiful. I honestly have not used them. Up to this day, I've had them about a year to 2 years. I figured, let's have a play and see if we can make inlays. Right now, I'm really only interested in the ammonites and the seashells. I'm not so fussed about the boat and the lighthouse and the medallions. The actual silicone I'm going to be using is the Let's Resin silicone rubber. Now, I am a Let's Resin silicone rubber ambassador, so the details for your silicone rubber will be down below if you are interested in having a play with this as well. But again, I've made many inlay videos. I've just never used these molds before. They've just kind of been hanging there staring at me. Every now and again I think, oh, I need to do something with you guys. This is the day. I had to take the label off. It was bugging me. Sorry guys. First up, I'm going to measure out my silicone rubber. Now, the Let's Resin silicone rubber is so easy to use. It's 1:1 by weight. So you just have to look at the scales and see a number and then set your scale to 0, pour part B and match that number. It really could not be any easier. I do mix it for 5 minutes, but I also add in some mica powder. I wanted to go blue because we are going oceans. You don't have to add mica to your silicone. I just love the way it looks when it's all gorgeously coloured and shimmery. Again, mix for 5 minutes and then it's time to pour. Pouring my silicone, similar if you've watched any of my videos before, I pour from quite high up. I'm about 2 to 3 foot off the desk at this point. That just helps all of the bubbles to knock themselves out and makes sure that the silicone gets into all of those nooks and crannies. I'm really only filling up the cavities that I want to fill up today and the ones that I really think are gorgeous. I figured I'd start with the smaller ones and whatever I've got left, I will work my way up to that huge ammonite. Like, that is the one that is filling my heart with screaming joy. This one here is so gorgeous. Luckily, I had enough silicone to fill this up. Now, I have to talk about these molds. They are so beautiful, but the one thing I find with them is that they're very uneven to use. They're not all flat, so the ammonite is much deeper. The huge ammonite is deeper than that small ammonite on the right. So I was trying to find a way to kind of prop it up because, yeah, if you've used these molds, you'll know what I'm talking about, but they don't lay flat. So let me know your advice. Do you cut up the individual cavities and just rest them in a bed of rice, or how do you make sure that they are flat when you're pouring your mediums in, or do you have to fill the whole mold for the weight to be evenly distributed? I hope that makes sense. If you like, that small ammonite is basically floating in midair. There's nothing underneath it supporting it. So next day, demold, and they came out like a dream. Everything I wanted and more. Honestly, you just never know until you try, but as soon as I realised the rubber was peeling off of the plastic so easily, I knew that we would have ourselves some gorgeous inlays, and look at this one. It is a beauty. It is honestly the chunkiest, hunkiest, most gorgeously beautiful inlay I think I've ever set eyes on. Something about ammonites. Now, here's something new. Absolute game-changing tools. Everyone has been using them. I am most likely the last person to ever buy some, but they are cuticle, I think they're cuticle cutters. I got them from Amazon in a pack of 3. I'll link them below. They are a game-changing tool to cleaning up the edges of your silicone inlays or your silicone molds. When you make a mold as well, those edges come away like a dream. So honestly, cannot wait to make more molds now and use these tools because wow, super chunky, beautiful silicone. Could not be happier at this stage. And honestly, I got so excited because I've got a few other Stamperia molds, but again, you know, what do I do? What do I make? What do I create? And now I just feel like I need all of the molds. This gorgeous seashell, again, the other shell, all popped out, no problems whatsoever. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've got any of these plastic maxi molds from Stamperia. And again, if you're in the UK, where do you get them from? But yeah, I'm in love. The ammonites, I've done multiple videos on my channel using ammonites and ammonite inlays, ammonite molds. Gorgeous. Now, these are the other molds that I've got. Now, you do have to be careful. This one here has got writing on it, and when you're making inlays, you really need to put thought in to how you're going to then use the inlay, because the writing could be backwards. So these ones here with no writing, it doesn't matter. How stunning would these look? I mean, this fairy, come on. There's no writing there, so there's no restrictions on making a silicone inlay. But again, if they've got writing, you have to think about it. Otherwise, the writing could be backwards. And I've got these stunning ones here. I would have loved to have used them, but I cannot use a single one of these because they've all got the wording on with the star signs, horoscopes, if you will. But yeah, there are so many beautiful molds out there. I'm not gonna lie, guys, that was gonna be the video, and I thought absolutely not. I cannot just put out a 6-minute video showing you guys that these molds really work. So I figured I'd make a creation with the largest ammonite. Again, this was days later, so you have to wait until the silicone cures. I learned that one from Wendy over at Timpage Crafts. You have to wait at least 24 hours before you use your inlays. I'm using this super chunky, deep, beautiful round mold from Moulds and Shapes. Details will be below. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. This was a bit risky of me. You can either just put it in the middle of your mould, or depending on the depth of your mould, it's really up to you how you use them, what you do with them. I decided to just use it straight in the centre of this deep round mould from Moulds and Shapes. And the question was, do I stick it to the silicone with suction? It just sticks with suction. I don't use anything to stick it down. Do I stick it to the centre of the mould? Or do I pour the resin in and then lay it into the resin? Very similar to what you see me do with the seahorse inlays. So there are so many options here. You can either cover it in chameleon powder. You can use foils. You can also, use your inks, your dyes, your colorants. But also I was tempted, very, very tempted to spray the whole thing at this point with frosted glass spray, because how beautiful would that look if it came out with a frosted glass look on it? So I decided, no, don't do all the easy things, Claire. Take a risk. Take a huge risk. We're going clear. We're going simple, elegant, stunning, crystally clear resin. I'm using the crystal clear resin by Let's Resin to do this one. I'm going to use my heat tool to help me out with any potential bubbles. And yeah, this was a risk. It was flat as a pancake down on the mould. Really, really good suction. You could literally pick this mould up, tip it upside down, and that inlay is not moving. It's not budging. So yeah, now was the time. Again, very risky process. I took what I thought would be a relatively easy route. Instead of adding all this colour and doing all of the things, I wanted to see if I could make a beautiful crystal clear resin ammonite trinket dish. So when we turn this over, the actual inlay of the ammonite is going to be where you put your jewellery, your rings, your earrings. And I had a vision, guys. I had a vision. I'm going slowly with the resin, pouring real slow. Worst case scenario here, the reason it's a huge risk is because there is a risk that inlay just might float. It might float. It is a chunky inlay. It is a really deep, heavy, chunky inlay. However, the resin is deeper. Is it going to float? Is it going to come away from the surface of the mould and float up into the resin, and then we've lost the inlay? Or is it going to stay put overnight, and I'm going to be able to peel it out the back, and we'll live happily ever after with our gorgeous ammonite trinket dish? This is what we're looking like just as we leave it. I came back 10 minutes later just to be sure it was not floating. And the next day, I think we all knew where this was going. It's okay. It's all okay. It was a complete disaster. However, I have to say it's still pretty. I still think it's pretty, but it is well and truly stuck inside the resin. It floated. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It would have been lighter in weight than the resin surrounding it, so it would have just come away from the surface. And look at this. It is well and truly in there. And it's so crazy because part of the ammonite inlay is still touchable. I can actually feel it here, like around the edge. I can just feel and push down where it's still really quite squishy silicone. So I had options here. I either leave it and it is pretty in its own way. It's not what we wanted, but it's okay. I'm going to try this again. I'm definitely going to try this again. Or we try and pull it out. Now, the chances of this happening were very slim because it was well and truly in there. But I thought if I could just get enough resin cut from around this edge here where it's quite close to the bottom, use my craft blade, work my way around all of that space where it is quite close. I even tried to get my ruler in there to wedge it up. I figured if I can pull it up, if I could just pull it up, I can save it. I could if I tried hard enough to pull the whole silicone inlay out of the cavity, then it would be even more special. But there was no way. There was no way on earth I was going to get this done. So next time, step 1, a thin layer of resin. Allow it to cure for several hours, holding that ammonite in place before filling up the mould. And honestly, I was gutted. But again, it's okay because I knew the risk I was taking. So I was very aware that I could wake up the next day, see that it had floated, and I was already prepared mentally for it. So it's all good. We learned together. Would it have been better if I just simply filled the mould and put the inlay down in? Yes, then you also risk a lot of air bubbles on top of the inlay. So I think to get the best out of the inlay this way around would be better. But hey, we're going to do it again, guys. We're going to try it again. Let me know if I should add colour next time. Should I add foils, flakes? Gold would be nice. Should I try again and do a crystal clear trinket dish and do it the right way? A nice thin layer of resin before we fill the mould up. We are always learning, guys. Every day is a school day. And honestly, I've learned so much this week. It's almost like, how can you be mad at it? It's a blessing. So yeah, pretty in its own way. And I'm kind of glad I did it blue because it still works as an art piece. If you sat that on your bookshelf, nobody would know that that was a complete disastrous resin piece. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed. If anything, hey, let's take away from the fact that the Stamperia molds really, really work fantastically well to make beautiful silicone inlays. And yeah, now I need to get online and I need to order more because the inspiration is real right now. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.